What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hot Take. Today we're in a 2022 Subaru BRZ. This is Moxon driver with us, Daniel. He just drove this car, but this car is actually owned by Chris Topher. Link in the channel for he's done a ton of driving this thing, and Daniel just drove it, and it looked like a ton of fun. It's not standard, but first we'll go through some of the features. It has a 2.4 liter boxer engine making 228 horsepower and just shy of 200 pound-feet of torque. We have a 6-speed manual transmission, which feels amazing, perfect, not cheap, and it weighs just under 2,800 pounds. Now, onto the mod list. I have a whole list here, which we'll go through some of, because there's no way I was gonna remember all this. We have some exhaust work, an MRT Sport Touring Axleback exhaust, FT86, Speedfactory catted, UEL, a 1.5-inch lift. It is ADF strut spacers with multi-link spacers, a 430 differential from a 2017 to 2020 BRZ 86. It's about a 5% gear difference. DVA 4000 front rotors, StopTech STR-600, high performance brake fluid, charcoal filter remove, MTEC clutch helper spring, and some other stuff. We have disabled the active sound system, so we're getting that pure, raw exhaust noise. It sounds really good. I'm very excited to drive this. So let's go ahead and take it on the road and see how she revs. Some initial impressions, it is very connected to you. Not even just by, well, I guess by new car standards for sure, but even just by like car standards in general, this is a very connected car. So something Chris had mentioned earlier is that the steering in this one is not as good as the old BRZ. Now I haven't driven, this is my first time ever driving a BRZ, so I don't have that frame of reference, but even still, it gives you a little bit of feedback and it's good. But you can definitely feel in the suspension a lot of what the car is doing. Shifter feels great. Oh, it turns in nicely. That's so much fun. It does also have negative... Okay, we got 6. Felt weird for a second. We do have negative 1.5 degrees of camber up front, which I was told helps with the understeer. And wow, that short diff ratio, I see why they put the longer one in there now, because you sit pretty high on the tack. It's very much like older sports cars. Ride quality is about what you'd expect. Honestly, it kind of feels on par with a Mark 7 GTI, which is funny because that car's, it feels correct in this car, and that car feels too stiff. Overall, it's good. Wind noise is not too bad at all. That's great. Good experience so far. So the 0 to 60 from the factory on these is 5.4 seconds, which I think it sounds about right. It doesn't have a ton of horsepower, but it's also not a very heavy car. Oh, this thing loves revs. Revs are your friend. Brake. Ah, there we go. Michelin tires are doing fantastic. Wow, this thing's a lot of fun. You had a lot of fun of it too when you drove it.
We had a blast.
Yeah, so the brake pedal it's a little mush when you get on it initially, but once you really get into it, you feel the bite. They're definitely good enough for this car. But this car it feels natural. And something I mentioned earlier, which is really nice, kind of, well, I guess I won't say really nice, but I kind of actually like in this car, it has the feeling of a lighter flywheel. The revs drop quickly, but it gives you a little bit of revs when you initially upshift, so you don't have to kind of slam gears in this car when you're just going around town. You can take your time to kind of shift it, which I appreciate. The Type R, you got to go quickly. Civic Type R. It's one of the only new cars I've driven that have like no rev hang. Little rear end squirreliness there, and let's try the, how do you get the track tack on here?
Put it on for you.
Oh, thank you. Very nice. This thing screams when you get up to 7,000. Loves revs. The one thing that drives me nuts already about this car is the self-returning turn signal stalks. I thought everybody learned from BMW's mistake to not do that. I don't know why they do that. Like, so then you go to flip it the other way and you can't get it. You have to do like the weird half click. It's, I don't know, very interesting choice by Subaru. Probably a cost-cutting measure. Who really knows? But all the other controls in this car feel nice. These buttons are really cool, very like sporty looking. I appreciate that. These dials feel good. Have a nice click to them, nice feedback.
Yeah, I do like this interior a lot. Nice and simple. Don't have too many buttons.
Yeah, exactly. Not too many buttons.
Just enough.
Just enough. It's a nice interior. Oh, these vents are great too. I love the circle, like, it's a very Japanese car thing. I've only ever seen circle vents in a Japanese car. Somebody comment down below. Did any American, maybe American did, I don't think European cars ever did the circle vent thing. And these are a little more normal. They should have given it like circles here. Add some lines to this dashboard for no reason. Also appreciate that they give you a real oil temp gauge. Maybe I'll research it later and I'll learn that's not real, but it says oil temp there because that's coolant temp on the right. It's got the little oil thingy. So I imagine it's real, but it's cool. It kind of shows you the target audience for this car. This was designed as a sports car for the enthusiasts. It's not the type of person who buys a Challenger or a Mustang. It's not the type of person that buys a BRZ. This is the only MSRP like high 20s, and you don't get a ton of horsepower. You get just enough. You get good driver's controls. You get just enough in the interior. It's very, like we said earlier, it's very simple. There isn't a bunch of features going on. Button you have, I'm guessing you hit that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 buttons. Traction control off, track setting. That's it. You don't get a bunch of features, go through the menu. Like even a GTI has more than this car. It's just simple. I respect that about this car.
Yeah, I think it's the best rear-wheel drive sports car in its price range.
100%. I mean, the other option maybe is Miata, which is a little cheaper, but they're considerably slower. Probably more connected though. I'm not sure. I'd have to drive an ND. But yeah, every sports car now, even the new Z, the new Supra, the 2 Series, like they're all 40 plus grand in their cheapest form. So this is like good return to basics. Let's look at use the blips a little bit. Those brakes are good. Very direct power delivery, and I even gave it a little bit of time there on the clutch lead up when I did the 1-2. It's kind of get a smooth shift. That's great. Throttle pedal tuning is a little weird. we'll throw it back into normal, get our normal tack. You know, I actually think I like the normal tack better for street driving. The track tech looks cool, but you kind of have a bias towards like the 4,000 plus RPM, which makes sense. I mean, that's what you would want on track. I guess throwing it on the the track tech on the street's a little gimmicky. There isn't really anything that I want from this car. Maybe a little more steering feel, but like, I mean, relative to a modern car, like, we already knew they weren't going to give us the super duper crisp, direct feel, because modern cars just don't have that. But as far as like a modern car goes, this has everything you could want.
I'm just glad it has a real parking brake.
Oh, the real parking brake's nice. And it sounds nice. Easy to downshift. It's just fun. Everyone mentioned a torque dip in this car. I don't know if there's like what the torque dip is, but I feel like you have really good torque below 4,000 and then above 5,500. I feel like the mid-range feels kind of dead. Like, you know, in a turbo car, you get on it and like you feel that surge, like right in the mid-range, the boost starts building. In this car, I feel like that's like the worst spot, which is very interesting. It makes like all of its power on the opposite ends of the tack. I could be wrong on that. I'm gonna look at a dyno graph after this or see what it makes peak torque, but that's my butt dynos telling me, like my feel, what I'm feeling with the foot. Overall though, the power band still feels, for the most part, pretty linear, and it's a nice power band, feels sporty.
Yeah, I really felt connected with this car. I felt like one with this car.
Yeah,
when
I mean,
driving it.
You feel small, the car feels tight, like crazy amounts of feedback this thing gives you, and it just feels so confident. It's funny, even with the lift, it doesn't feel any like boaty or anything. If anything, I'm sure that's a camber up front, but it feels really dialed in. So even though the car's lifted, I don't think the height added to the car really made a difference for this thing as far as like how well it handles goes.
I just love how you can use the whole car on the streets. You can actually rev it through all the gears, and you're not gonna break too many laws or kill yourself, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're able to use the entire tack. You can use, you know, or you could row it through first, second, and third, and like totally okay. Wow, that is you know what they say, a bad driver never misses their exit. So we've now finished our test drive of the 2022, I guess call it Rally BRZ, and it was so much fun. The car is so communicative to the driver, and it has the perfect level. It's like, I guess I'd call it it's in the Goldilocks zone. Kind of like a 2,800 to like 3,400 pounds, 2 to 400 horsepower range. It's in that Goldilocks zone, and it's like perfect. It's lightweight, it's playful, it's fun. I didn't really get the rear end out, but like you kind of feel a little bit like you could easily get the rear end to step out and totally pull it back in, correct it. The car just gives you so much confidence. So I'm really glad that Chris gave us the opportunity to drive it. You had a lot of fun too. What was your
It was amazing. I felt super connected with it, super tight. Feels like a true sports car to me.
So hot take, it is, I think, one of the best value to feel sports cars on sale today. So with that, let's go ahead and give it a score. The scores are as shown. It's hitting with all of our European sports cars, which I think is fitting. The BRZ gets outperformed by the E46 M3, the Porsche 911 around it, but the cost of ownership will be far less than either of those cars. It would have scored higher, but it loses out on the daily categories. Really, the only pitfall to this car is the reported engine failures on track, which hurts the should you buy it score, given that track use is one of the main purposes for this car's existence. Should you buy it? The Subaru BRZ is a fantastic sports car. It has great feel, and this new one has enough power to keep up with faster cars on back roads. This car is the end of an era for smaller, bare-bones sports coupes. Every one of its competitors has an MSRP of $10,000 more than it, and they've gotten larger with more technology added. The only thing left that's comparable to this car really is an ND Miata, but those are still slow, rendering this the only sports car in that Goldilocks zone of power to weight. If you want the perfect blend of modernization with some of that older car character, the Subaru BRZ is worth a look.